So our first question is, how do I know I need help?
Do you want to start?
You're speaking already. You might as well.
How do you know you need help? I think it's important to distinguish between when you're having a really, really bad moment and when you are feeling like you're drowning. Sometimes even your language sounds like that. I can't cope. I can't see my way to tomorrow. I'm too this. I'm too tired. I am overwhelmed. I don't want to accept anymore. That whole. That sounds to me like someone who does not have mechanisms to cope through a day or through a week. And so, I think one needs to be aware of what you're saying and what you're feeling. If you have anxiety, for example, you'll definitely be feeling a lot of, the butterflies, the trembling, possible panic attacks, which are really exactly dizziness. And I think when those things are happening, that it needs to be acknowledged as this is not a normal thing.
Yeah.
And maybe I need to understand what this is.
Yeah.
But certainly, if someone is sort of unpacking that for themselves, they may reach out and call and ask questions to a friend or a colleague or a healthcare professional, and usually, you can get an idea of how you're coping, and you need that sort of, because if it's all in your mind. You may be telling yourself, I'm fine, whereas maybe you're not.
You're not. Yeah, I definitely agree. Take note of your language. Take note of your language, take note of your body.
Yeah.
Like you said, your body, things will be getting worse progressively. If it's anxiety, one day you were fine, but you're having diarrhea for like weeks on end, And then talk to people, because I think it's not a bad thing to say, I don't think I'm coping, what do you think? What are your thoughts about where I'm at? Because like you said, if it's all in your head, you will convince yourself you're okay, and that's a problem. Yeah. And I think also, if it's impacting your functioning, I really feel like if you're not managing at work or at school, if you're not managing at home, the things, you're not bathing, you're not waking up, those kind of things where you just aren't reaching your best on a normal average day. Then ask for help. And I think there's nothing wrong. If you're wrong, great. Like if you go ask for help and they find out that you're actually fine, I think that's okay. It's better than that than sitting with your own thoughts and it getting worse. Yeah. Sure. So this question is really difficult. Where can I go for help if I'm struggling? So let's talk about starting with the school campuses, and it's not every school. That's the thing. This question is like, where are you based? Location is a big thing. But let me start with what I do know. If you are on the campuses, with VITS, there's CCDU, at UJ, there's PsyCAD. So that's where you can go for help. And then I know in the government sector, I'm going to start there. In the government sector, you can go to a hospital with a referral letter. So you can start off at a clinic or at a GP and say, I'm not fine. And then from then on, they refer you to a psychologist or psychiatry department, and then they see you. That's in government institutions or academic institutions. We do have like SADC with their toll-free numbers. We have Lifeline with their toll-free numbers. And then other than that, there's the private facilities where you can, Google a psychologist in this area or ask a professional that you know. So those are the structures that are in place. But it really all depends on where do you stay, where are you based. It becomes complicated with location.
Yeah, I think the question is also asking about formal services, but where you get help, get on online. Start looking for toll-free numbers that are available. You can literally be speaking to someone who's trained for what you are asking. Toll-free for gender-based violence, toll-free for almost any situation. And so start by looking for it online and getting specific numbers, and then calling in and just saying what you need to say. A lot of the time you'll get someone who's reflecting very well to you and making sure that you are feeling safe in the conversation so that you can actually say what you need to say and get it off your chest. So help is there, it's available. It is, in fact, so many networks are now making sure that they're reaching out. There are some services even in medical aids where you can call as an option, just to alert the fact that you're having a stressful moment. So yeah, use whatever mechanism is available to you, and use the toll-free lines. Just use the toll-free lines. I'm telling you, the people who know what they're doing on the other end of those things.
Definitely trained. And to add, in terms of family, if your family members aren't managing at workplaces, there's like employment wellness, employment health, EAP services. So there are facilities, or there's places to access help. It's just about reaching out and looking for those services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the question is, how can families and friends be involved in the solution? I think we are a social people. We are a community, mostly. We're not living as individuals. So this is a very important question. I think healing and I think wellness can happen very well, or can be stagnated because of the environment you're in. And how can families help? Firstly, if you're seeing someone, your sister, your brother, your mother, your uncles in trouble, ask them if they need help. The likelihood is they are needing someone to reach out. So if you're thinking maybe, venture out and ask. And provide a listening ear, I think, to friends and to colleagues and to your family. Sometimes people just need to feel heard, and that maybe it's not unique to them. Having a very difficult season, psychological season, might just be one of those things, a difficult thing. And when you are in community, a lot of the times you do get that thing that you're not alone. It's okay. So be the person who is saying it's okay, you're not alone. And whenever you want to talk, or send a message saying, I'm thinking about you. You may not want to talk. Just know that I'm here and I'm thinking about you. You're not alone. I think those kind of messages really help those who are wrestling with mental health.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think you're right. We are a society, we're a community, we've got community cultures, and it's time we're honest, hey? I think how families can help us, can we just be honest with each other? Can we have open conversations? Because we're all just trying to be strong, and we're not always strong all the time. And so I think if you create an environment where I share my difficulties, it's easier when the next person shares their difficulties, right? So that's the one thing. I think let's just be honest. Let's not pretend. And then I agree, reach out. If you see a problem, reach out. And like you said, reaching out doesn't mean you need to fix, because that's the pressure. We feel like if I'm reaching out, I need to make sure everything's okay. No. Just saying I'm worried about you, 1, 2, 3 will be an eye-opener for the person. Like, oh, really, I'm doing that? I didn't even notice. And then just listening is big. We take that for granted. Just to have a non-judgmental, safe ear, safe space where we can just be honest. Because that's what I do. I sit and I listen to someone tell me their story, and I hold it with such honor just to listen to their struggles, and then hold their hand when they need support. If they need you to call them, to wake them up, if they need you to check on them, if they've eaten, or they've called the lifeline, or they've called the toll-free numbers. Ask people what they need. I think if you don't know what to do, it won't hurt to ask. What do you need? How can I help you? And don't get tired of asking, I think. I mean, you can have boundaries, and let me put it. Ask, and if you feel like it's overwhelming, tag team someone else to ask. Because I do agree that it gets a lot for families as well.
Yeah.
But let's just be honest. Yeah. So this question's sensitive, but real. And I think it's important we talk about it. In the space where people are feeling overwhelmed and feeling lonely, someone feels like they want to commit suicide. How do we help? When we hear people talking about suicide, how do we help? I think definitely for me, the one thing is we shouldn't shy away from the conversation. Like, if you're suspecting someone is suicidal, ask them, Chomi, are you okay? Do you want to, are you thinking of suicide? Because I think that already breaks, it breaks the tensity of the, event. When someone calls it out and shares that they know how hard it is for you, that you would rather die than continue living. I think that's powerful when we open up that conversation, when we say it out loud. I do think there's a progression of symptoms, so things build up towards suicide, and sometimes we shouldn't ignore the build-up as friends or as people in our lives, but have the conversation and ask them probing questions, what have you planned to do? What do you want to do? What are your thoughts? Let them say it out loud. And then I would the suicide lines are 24 hours. Not only Saidach, but on the campuses as well. They're 24-hour suicide lines. There's the emergency department. Call an Uber, go to the casualty with them. So leaving them alone is not necessarily helpful. But when you feel, I think they've said they want to commit suicide, they've told you what their plan is, then take it seriously and then seek help, because you will feel overwhelmed and it'll be scary for you. Those are my thoughts. Yeah. I don't know what you think.
I think that just to add to that is probably also ask them if there's anyone that you can call for them, so they can go with someone they trust to the hospital, or to whatever source of help they get. And I think even using words like, do you want to harm yourself? Sometimes the word suicide is just so off, just off, bounds. It's just like, no, I don't want to do that, because it's just the word that's more the response to the word. But you can still probe and say, do you want to harm yourself? Do you want to harm other things or other people, or what's going on? Just to soften what you're trying to get to, and to make sure that you understand that there may be something very, very wrong with how they are processing whatever's happening in life. And I think, personally, I think we need to have conversations about death.
Yeah.
We need to be more and more accepting of death. I think suicide is unique, obviously, because the person dies by suicide. But if you don't want to talk about death, you won't be able to broach the subject.
True. And
make it safe for a person who's actually contemplating ending their life. So, start also, I think as a people, we need to really start engaging this concept of death and death by suicide, and why do we guilt people when that happens, and why, and maybe once you get to the end of that why, you can have a different perspective and a different approach to this conversation, and don't make them right or wrong for feeling what they're feeling, and saying what they're saying, and being as hopeless as they are, because it's okay for them to be that hopeless, but there is help, and making sure that they get help is at least what you can facilitate as best as you can. And if they don't get better, it's also okay. It's not, you can't save everything and everyone, but do your best to make sure that they're in a safe place. Yeah,
I definitely agree that if they're not okay, it's not your, it's not your fault, if that's the word we use. That you had done your best and you were with them at that time. You don't trigger people by talking about suicide or self-harm. It doesn't say, okay, now they're going to do it.
Yeah.
That's a myth. We need to stop that, scrape that up. Yeah. If we bring up the conversation or we say the word, it's not going to now linger in their mind. You didn't plant any seed. They've already felt that sense of hopelessness and tired of life. And that you just walk with them and help them towards support, because it gets to a point where they can't even see light and they can't even see where to go. So you are helping them reach that.
Yeah.
And I agree, let's talk about death. Personally as well, I learning to talk about death is really important so that we can really have the real talks.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so this question is very tough. The question is, what can universities do to support students? Well, I don't think there's a clear-cut answer to this one. I think I'll do it differently. I won't say what can universities do, because I think that they do try and put structures in place. But I think people in universities, people in the context of learning, lecturers, whoever, they can maybe understand that this is a crazy time, and that all students and staff, everyone, is just in a completely new environment. We are having to teach in ways that we haven't. And the students are also very worried about their curricula, whether or not they're going to fail. And I think things that just need to be a little bit simplified for now, simplified. And understand what the goal of varsity is. It's just to gain knowledge, to gain a skill, and to learn from what's happening and to critique certain things. And it's really hard, I know, trying to figure, how am I going to walk out with this thing, or am I going to be A this? Am I going to be A that at the end of this? Right now, lots of things are not known. I think the issue is just that faculties and student bodies and staff bodies need to really appreciate that everyone is really wrestling with a difficult context, and that you want to bring as many people across as possible, and make learning as easy as possible at this point. Making it hard is just unnecessary. Piling on assignment after assignment after assignment after this, that way of teaching and assuming that someone isn't disturbed at home, or
has capacity
at home, has Wi-Fi, or how they are accessing all this stuff. I mean, there are realities happening now, and I just think if people in the higher learning institutions just really appreciate how hard it must be, I think they will respond in a fair way.
Yeah, and it's across board. So both the lecturers and coordinators and supervisors, whatever, and the students. I think we all need to recognize this is a hard time for everybody.
Yeah.
And with it being a hard time for everybody, we should not forget that we're humans in all of this. And like you said, everyone's just trying to do the best they can. But like I loved what Teho said in terms of what is the aim? Like as universities, piling up assignments, piling up, what is your aim? Are you just trying to trip students? What are we doing? At the end of the day, we want to, you know, share knowledge and, you know, help them gain the skills. And, you know, I have students complain about, will I be competent this? Because I feel like things are being shortchanged. And I really feel like for me, I go back, when I don't know, I ask. And I feel like universities should just ask the students, how can we be better for you?
Yeah.
Ask the students what we can do. Run the polls, make the phone calls. Because, you know, if you are basing, no one has experienced this before, so no one is competent to deal with this. And if we don't ask people what they need or what they're experiencing, we will never be able to assist them effectively. So for me, I would just really challenge universities and lecturers and everyone to ask the questions so that we can move together, all of us, sane and together as best as possible.